3.1 Practice and Research, Project 10, concluding my work. I just wanted to put together this reflective video because I've been using video as a platform for my critical feedback, critical analysis, case study work. So, and because it's Project 10 and it's the last assignment of 3.1, I thought it would be a good idea. Just wanted to reflect really. It's been a long journey, an interesting journey, and I've learnt a lot about myself and I've learnt a lot about my subject matter. I decided to use the theme dyslexia, and this was because I'd recently been diagnosed dyslexic myself. So, as a subject matter, I thought that this could be an inspiration to my textile practice, and it certainly was. Research has become a strong foundation, and 3.1 practice and research has given me this. It's opened new pathways and new doors to dyslexia. I've learnt the academic side of dyslexia, and I've also learnt the creative side to dyslexia. And I've learnt a lot about myself. It's made me understand how I work and how I operate and how I think. So it's been great for all of that. And then obviously also as well, there's been the learning processes for my textile degree. So I would just like to, I suppose, say thank you to the research that has supported these 10 projects. I was greatly inspired by Aldo van Eyck and Creative Play and his Creative Playgrounds. And I was also inspired greatly by Laura Blake, her neurodiversity textiles. And I learnt a lot about how to approach sampling, how to learn how to make, how to be resourceful, how to use things like traditional materials, and then how to interact with the colour, the tactility, and how could these talk about the theme dyslexia. There is a lot of research that was covered quite in depth, and I think it could make another project because there were all these creative people that I learnt about, artists, other textile practitioners, creative people, product designers, and so forth. But I also learnt as well from the academic side that adults that go into higher education, they actually discover that they're dyslexic with academic writing. So that was quite interesting, really. But it has also helped me realise that I'm not stupid. I can use my textile practice as a strength in my work, and I've now learnt that it is going to be my creative language, and my textiles can become academic, visually academic. So I think it was an achievement. And again, this is all through the basis of strong research. This has enabled to strengthen my sketchbooks, and it has also enabled me to become confident about putting my work out there on platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and to level 3 group meetings where we discuss each other's work and so forth, and feedback from my tutor also. So it's been a great journey. So a lot of now where I'm at is going to be preparing for 3.2, and I will continue to take this subject matter to 3.2 and again rediscover new learning on the subject matter dyslexia. So I would just like to just clarify and reflect over some of the sampling. This here is traditional materials, wire and wool thread, and this was inspired by the thin red line of school books and school reports, the negative connotations of school teachers telling me that I wasn't good enough and I had poor exam results and so forth. So this piece will continue, I think, because it is actually, as you can see, I'm automatically playing with my textile pieces. and I think this is the whole point. I've learnt about sensory, I've learnt about texture, I've learnt about colour, and I've learnt about how my materials interact with each other. And it can be, a verbal form of communication, it can be non-verbal, but also as well, along my journey, I started to think about and learnt about textile therapy, which has been great. One of the other areas that I learnt through my dyslexia was learning about shapes, and I kind of resonate with the circle in my work from past projects and past OCA studies. The circle seems to play quite a big role, so I don't know whether this is something to do with the methodical cycle, because my work follows that pattern. I always have a beginning, a middle, and then the end, and then it kind of comes back round or cycles back round. But I found that a lot of my textile sampling with my research kind of pulled earlier little bits of research, or it pulled somebody in that gave me an idea and so forth. So this gave research an even bigger pathway and journey to follow. So this really helped. It also helped with my samples to go large scale, making textural fabrics, again interacting with colour, interacting with shape, and interacting with my materials. That again, as we can see, we can do anything we please. Could be a stress thing, or it could be a line of inquiry to find out what is this piece of creative textiles. So again, that's where I was with these samples. Working large scale and more ideas with the circle really worked, and it really works with the colour red, even though it's not my favourite. It taught me how to interact with colour, one colour, the interaction of colour with Joseph Albers, looking at tone, hues of colour, and also as well working with knit and making a large scale tube, which was an expansion from the French knitted cord, enabled me to make something quite textural. This became large scale, and we can see now that this moves and it plays with itself. I was inspired by Natsuki Hanu, who uses her body as a platform to display her textiles, and this is where I was at with these large scale samples. Moving forward, I did go into the realm of making refined samples, which I was recommended not to do, but I kind of, towards the end of the assignment, wanted to pull together a lot of other areas. But again, I think this is the way that my brain works. It can work in a very confused, creative manner, but then when I start to break things down, I can start to siphon things through. And I think probably having to work with practice and research has enabled me to realise the possibilities of my own textile practice, working with mixed media. But what happened along the way, through processes and refinement and sorting, I've actually started to feel that I want to produce knitted textiles because it's soft to the feel and it's traditional. But I am not a traditional knitter. So I think that line of inquiry to find out the inquisitive side of knitting will be a good possibility again for 3.2. So the refined set of samples that I produced here went back to earlier pieces of research, as we can see here. The rubber bands with the knit, the use of the circle, interacting with materials. The online dyslexic store was a great source, mainly for equipment that they use for education with dyslexia. So these materials kind of resonate with the classroom and a craft-based playing around. And this is what I discovered also as well, was the colour palettes. The mixed media started to determine what the colour palette was. I use the colour red in the knit because that is for dyslexia awareness. Dyslexia awareness has been turned into a positivity and it's worldwide because of the negative connotation of the red marker pen. So moving forward, I engaged more with the materials from early on, the lollipop sticks being traditional. I made little structures that were textile responses from Creative Playgrounds, but again here I've refined and developed them. And the other thing that has come from this is the idea of sound in the textiles. Now, as the projects have developed, I have wanted to use the idea of the body as a platform. And first of all, the hands have become a platform. As the textiles have developed, the rest of the body has started to become a platform. So moving on from the hands are a great tool to make something that is inquisitive. The hands play, the hands touch, and they touch all the idea of the sensory textiles. They touch the idea of the materials, and the hands interact with the materials of the interaction of colour with the touch and feel. So the idea of textile therapy starts to filter through. And also as well, I consider that this kind of looks playground based also. So everything I feel that is starting to resonate with that methodical cycle of my research and filtering through the more playful elements and also the more mature elements of my sample making. As I was playing with some of the samples with the hand, then the samples start to creep further onto other parts of the body. Here we can see there is a slight change of materials, but also it resonates with the circle, the colour red, and then the arm starts to become an extension. Again, there is a continuous interaction of touching and feeling and finding out and asking questions. What is that as a piece of textile? And that is part of one of my aims with my textile sampling, is to pull in my audience, for my audience to actually get involved and start to touch and feel these materials. I quite like the idea of large scale. There's just something there about something that's large scale, because I think it becomes more of an extension to a different part of the body. Moving on, I slightly went back and just changed the colour of the thin red line, and I've started to make different coloured samples and different sections. Again, these were more refined. I have done videos and photographs of these, but they are now starting to engage with the body, and they started to feel like pieces of armour, because it was interesting. As I'm wearing my own textiles, my own dyslexia textiles, there is something quite comforting, and it feels like a big achievement. But these did feel as though they were protecting me, and this kind of made me feel again earlier lines of inquiry with John Waters and Capsid, something that protects the body, a cell-like structure that has a layer that protects. So these pieces now become pieces of armour, and I also feel that it starts to engage with a lot more movement. The textiles could possibly start to become performance. Textiles and performance and therapy and interaction with movement and touching and feeling. Now, I haven't demonstrated this one particular sample on my blog, because I thought I would pull this back and possibly push this forward, and this is going to be part of concluding my work. This sample again interacts very well, but I thought I would save this piece for 3.2 as an opening piece. I am looking forward to 3.2. I have no idea where it's going to take me, but 3.1 has certainly been a great time. Again, I would say there's been positive times, there's been negative times, there's been difficulties. I found my critical essay very difficult. I used video and audio as a platform for that, so I was enabled to talk about my work, which has been great. So again, I just think it's going to be a fantastic time to move forward onto 3.2. Hope you enjoyed this video and see you soon.